Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project and Magnetic Reversal News, bringing you a magnetic excursion update Monday, October 7th, around 8 p.m. Mountain Time, 2024. An X-flare, a CME, and a sun-diving comet with an ongoing geomagnetic storm has added insult to injury, and we now have a Cat5 hurricane headed towards Florida. Keep calm. It's boom time. Hurricane Milton's rapid intensity can be blamed on the ongoing geomagnetic storm, and Hurricane Milton is at Category 5. Florida orders evacuations and scrambles to clear Helene's debris, as it's just a matter of, just about 48 hours until landfall. Traffic is backed up on Tampa Bay highways as people evacuate, which is good news. The earlier you leave, the better. We do have some footage of that just a few hours ago. You can see an orderly evacuation. People are smart. They began leaving 2 days before the storm gets here. This is good news. This is going to save many, many lives. Hopefully, the traffic continues to flow smoothly as we move closer and closer to landfall. You can follow all the breaking updates on our X channel, Oppenheimer Ranch Project, at Diamond the Day, formerly Twitter. We want to thank all 11,000 followers, all the new followers, and we would like to get this to 1 million by the end of the year. Like that's ever going to happen. Hurricane Milton is now Cat 5, as we have said, with winds now coming in over 200 miles per hour in the latest report. At 180 in the last report, it tied as the third strongest hurricane in Atlantic history. It's my opinion this may get to the top 2. So we'll keep a close eye on it. The good news is that there will be rapid de-intensification as it makes landfall. But as it intensifies, it's going to gain size and strength. And that means even if it is weak on landfall, it will be huge. Hurricane Milton currently maximum sustained winds at 180 miles per hour. Let's refresh this and make sure there's no update. No, this is Advisory 11A. Let's take a look at the key message for Hurricane Milton. Damaging hurricane force winds and life-threatening storm surge with destructive waves are expected across portions of the northern coast of the Yucatan Peninsula tonight, and that is going to transition over towards Florida. Milton is expected to grow in size and remain an extremely dangerous hurricane when it approaches the coast of Florida on Wednesday. A large area of destructive storm surge will occur along parts of the west coast of Florida on Wednesday, with storm surge potentially reaching 12 feet or more. This is an extremely life-threatening situation, and residents in those areas should follow advice given by local officials and evacuate immediately. Potentially devastating hurricane force winds are expected along portions of the west coast of Florida, where a hurricane warning is currently in effect. Milton is forecast to remain a hurricane as it crosses the Florida Peninsula, and life-threatening hurricane force winds, especially in gusts, are expected to spread inland across portions of the entire Florida Peninsula. Preparations to protect life, property in the warning areas should be complete by Tuesday night. That means you have just 24 hours, since tropical storm conditions are expected to begin in this area by Wednesday morning. Areas of heavy rainfall will impact portions of Florida today, well ahead of Milton, setting up for devastating flooding when Milton arrives. Holy macaroni. Let's take a look at the peak storm surge. This was just updated hours ago. You can see there are many people at risk. And let's walk you through real quick. The major storm surge is from the Ann Clote River, north of Tampa, south through Tampa Bay, all the way down south through Englewood, where 10 to 15 foot of storm surge is expected. Depending on where landfall occurs, this northern portion literally represents the eye wall. If the eye wall moves south, then this storm surge moves south with it. I would say that the most dangerous region to be is from Yankeetown all the way down to Chokoloskee. That is a huge region, and if you are in the Barrier Islands in any of these areas, please evacuate now. This storm surge will not only be life-threatening, but it will be life-ending. The biggest storm surge threat currently is north of Tampa Bay, south to Englewood, where all of those people should evacuate now. Not a single person should remain. And if you are just 5 or 10 feet above sea level, the odds of you surviving this are very low. So if you're inland on a river or in Tampa Bay, Sarasota, Pensacola, or anyone in low-lying regions, get out now. That's all I can say. The current spaghetti model runs still have this as highly variable. It could rapidly shift south. It could even shift north. But most of the model runs are having this make landfall directly on Tampa Bay. If it's just north of the bay, it's going to create huge storm surge in the bay itself. If it is south of the bay, it's good news, and the bay will drain out due to the westerly winds there. But that's bad news for Sarasota, Pensacola, Clearwater, areas like that, all the way down to Bonita. So heed the warnings, evacuate now. I can't say it enough. Even though this storm may lose strength as it makes landfall, that doesn't mean it's going to be less deadly. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so here we can see on the GFS model the storm approaching and rapidly moving north here with the eye wall making landfall just north of Tampa Bay. This is the worst case scenario. This would be landfall at Cat3 with the most driving winds pushing directly into Tampa Bay. This is the most catastrophic event possible. If this is how it unfolds, we're going to be seeing one of the most unprecedented destructive storms in history. This is because the population of this region since the last hurricane like this hit has increased thousands of times. The last type of hurricane to hit here was a long time ago and in the 1940s, and people have forgotten. So this is very bad news for millions of people that are going to be affected. So our hearts, thoughts, and prayers go out to those. Now, this storm could approach 200 miles per hour. And if you look at the Simpson Scale, you can see each level is just about 20 to 25 miles per hour, which means we are already in what would be considered Cat 6 territory above 185, where we're at now. When it hits 200, it's in uncharted territory. The Saffir-Simpson wind scale doesn't work like that, and I think it really needs to be revamped because anything above Cat 157 is Cat 5, and we now very well may be at 200 miles per hour sustained winds. For those of you that have been watching the nightmare that is on Twitter, X, and other social media with the misinformation on steering of hurricanes and weather modification, it's all garbage. Dane Wigington is a fraud, and we don't have any technology to steer hurricanes. The amount of energy in a single hurricane eclipses HARP by 24 quadrillion times. That means that HARP is like throwing a pebble into the entire ocean. There's no effect. So there's certainly no shadow government controlling these hurricanes, which have been occurring since time immemorial. The Tampa Bay hurricane of 1848 formed in the Bay of Campeche, just like this one. Now, the difference is that the current hurricane was a tropical disturbance in the Pacific that made its way across Mexico and reformed in the Bay of Campeche. The storm of 1848, however, formed on its own in the Bay of Campeche in the same region, and it took the same exact path just north of Tampa Bay. Yeah, it tracked eastward and making landfall north of Tampa as a Category 4 with a maximum sustained winds of 130 miles per hour and an MSLP of 948 hectopascals. Yeah, so there was no weather modification back then, and even though there's weather modification now, it doesn't mean we can steer a hurricane or even create one. These are natural phenomenon that happen during, wait for it, hurricane season that peaks, in the middle of September. Very high probability in the beginning of October, but just in a few weeks, it'll all be over. Once it's November 1st, hurricane season has pretty much come to an end. And there is no increase in hurricane size or activity. In fact, this year is one of the lowest years in recorded history in hurricanes worldwide. The largest hurricanes, as well as the strongest hurricanes, some of the lowest numbers in recorded history, thanks to the work of Ryan Maue. And here's the full forecast for the U.S., tracking major Hurricane Milton. Milton is expected to grow in size and remain, I don't know how, and remain an extremely dangerous hurricane when it approaches the west coast of Florida Wednesday. So tomorrow, big update, we could be seeing the largest hurricane ever in recorded history in the Atlantic, thanks to space weather. Moderate to major river flooding will begin, and life-threatening storm surge, heavy rainfall, and hurricane-force winds are expected by Wednesday. Tropical storm and storm surge warnings have been issued for portions of Florida and the West Coast, so heed the warnings and don't be the next Darwin Award. Seismic update. No quakes of note. Moderate uptick continues, but we are waiting for a coronal hole enhancement to increase the seismicity in the next 4 days. Worldwide volcano news, a very short list today. Nevado de Ruiz on the list. Suanos Hima to 8,000. Manam to 8,000. Semeru, who knew? Now you do 14,000 foot puff. Sangay to 22. Sabancay to 22. Liwatobi to 10. Fuego to 16. Reventador puffing and passing. Fuego to 16,000 feet. Semeru to 14,000 foot. Sabancay to 22. Liwatobi to 10. Suanos Hima to 8. And Ducono to 8, wrapping up the list for the day. Hey. A big look over at space weather. We had majors flaring today. An X2.1 followed by a long-duration X1 solar flare sent a huge coronal mass ejection out into space. At the same time, we have been in G1 and G2 geomagnetic storm for over 24 hours. All of this energy now intensifying Hurricane Milton. The fastest intensification from tropical storm to Cat5, I think, ever recorded. And we have potential for geomagnetic storm tonight, albeit at higher latitudes. Although last night's geomagnetic storm came all the way down into the Dakotas and even Missouri, I think we could see the same effect tonight. So get out and look up. Here is telemetry, and the BZ has continued to push south, so the potential for aurora tonight continues to be awesome. And now take a look at this. A photographer captures spectacular image of Comet A3 and a crescent moon over the pyramids of Giza. A bunch of idiots on the interwebs claiming they haven't seen the moon in 5 days. Yeah, that's because it's new moon, you dum-dums. And the moon was also very close to the sun, so there's no way to see the crescent before or after until it moves far enough away from the sun. And that just means you're dumb. That means you don't look at the sky, you have no way to Google, you have no way to understand what you're looking at, and either that or you're just an idiot looking for clicks. So for all those people that haven't seen the moon for days, apparently you didn't go out last night and look up because it's right there, right now. And take a look at LASCO C3. We've got Comet A3 moving into the picture. All right, we're going to run this through for you and stop it as soon as Comet A3 comes into the picture. You can see A3 is now in the picture with the long duration X1 flare just moving out off of the sun. Comet A3 is going to be visible as it traverses behind the sun for the next 4 days. So in about 2 days, it will move behind the sun. And will it trigger a massive solar flare? Maybe the end of the Earth. Who knows? But this is some fantastic space weather to be witnessing on LASCO's C3. Stay tuned to the channel to keep up with updates of what's going on in space, with Hurricane Milton, well, and with the breakdown of society and the end of the empire as you know it. And that's a boon to knowledge. Please share this video. We are Shadow Band. We need your help to grow. Become a Patreon. Support the work we do. We love you. Be safe. And that's a boom. Hit the thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm.